Notre Dame football fans have been blessed with consistency at the quarterback position over the last few years, as Ian Book has been the man running the offense. On the other hand, Ian Book definitely was not the greatest quarterback on the planet, but it could have been a lot worse. Going into 2021, Book was taken by the New Orleans Saints, and the Irish have to find a new starting quarterback. As of right now, they have 4 different options, and I'm pretty excited for all 4 of them. They have a transfer from another Big Ten school, a very highly recruited freshman, and 2 blue chip guys who have been with the program for a couple of years now. In today's video, we're going to talk about all 4 guys, what each one of them brings to the table, and at the end of the day, who I think will win the 2021 Notre Dame starting quarterback spot. So without further ado, let's get started. So at this point, you're probably wondering who the 4 guys are, and it is none other than Wisconsin transfer Jack Coan, highly recruited freshman Tyler Buckner, Drew Pyne, and Brendan Clark. We're going to talk about all of these guys, and I'm super excited. Right before we get started though, please be sure to let me know what team I should do next and who you think will win. Alright, so the first guy we are going to talk about today is Jack Coan. He had just transferred in from Wisconsin as a graduate guy, and he played in a total of 25 games and started 18 of them at quarterback. In his time at Wisconsin, he was one of the more efficient players in school history, as he completed 68% of his passes and threw for a total of 3,278 yards, 23 touchdowns, and only 8 picks. In his time as a starter, he went 12-6, but who is this guy? So we need to go back in time and figure out who he is a little bit. He set the Long Island career record for passing yards with nearly 10,000 and touchdown passes, which was 128. He also ran for 2,500 yards and 33 touchdowns as well, and was a 4-star recruit according to most sources. He was a New York Gatorade Player of the Year as a senior, and eventually committed to Wisconsin over the likes of Nebraska, Boston College, and Northwestern. He had a pretty good career for the Badgers, but after suffering an injury in the preseason last year, Graham Mertz took over, and Coan decided to graduate transfer. His high school coach had this to say: "When Jack went into the portal, it attracted some attention. Notre Dame is a school that he was originally committed to play lacrosse for, and there was a ton of interest in Notre Dame for Jack before football really popped for him, but things did not work out of high school for him to go to Notre Dame. Well, he will finally get his chance, as they would add him as a graduate transfer going into 2021, and many believe he will be the starter." His coach also said, quote, "He's super intelligent. You see that at Wisconsin. The coaches there will tell you that he processes information quickly and can command an offense. He knows what the defense is doing, will get you into good situations, and won't turn the ball over." Basically, my opinion on Coan is that he's just a good game manager, and while he potentially has more upside than Ian Book, I think he has a good shot at winning this job. He's someone who will make the right throw, he's not going to force things, and he will not put your defense in a bad position. If he has to make that big throw, he's going to make it, but he won't do it every single play. His legs were not used very much at Wisconsin, but offensive coordinator Tommy Rees believes that Coan will be able to use his legs a lot more in 2021. So overall, I think he has the inside track to the starting job, but his ceiling is not ultra high, which is why the other guys on the list will have a fighting chance. The second guy we need to talk about is Tyler Buckner. He's originally from La Jolla, California, and has been a big name for quite a while now. He was a huge lacrosse player in middle school and was actually invited to a football camp at UCLA because then head coach Jim Mora knew Buckner because his son played lacrosse as well. UCLA was the first program to offer Buckner a full scholarship, but Tyler was going down a different route. He committed to Michigan in 8th grade for lacrosse, but eventually he'd start to realize his future was in football. He was originally only interested in going to schools like Alabama and Georgia, but after a trip to Notre Dame, everything would change. His dad played at Colgate back in the day and told him to go through the entire recruiting process. Throughout the drive to campus, Buckner was very disinterested in the place until he started going down Notre Dame Avenue. Seeing the fall leaves and the statue of Mary on the university's main building apparently changed his mind, and he was super excited to be there. He'd be hit with a setback, but it also was a blessing in disguise. His high school coach said, quote, "You always hear coaches say, if I had a chance to coach before I played, I would have been even better." Well, Tyler technically did. He did in fact have that opportunity, as he tore his ACL, got to spend time with the coaching staff, and throughout that process, Notre Dame continued to support him. Buckner would go on to have a monster junior campaign in which he threw for over 4,000 yards and rushed for 1,600 yards and combined for 80 touchdowns. From there, he was the number 10 quarterback in his class, the 70th best player in the class of 2021, and committed to the Fighting Irish. In terms of his outlook for 2021, he has all the talent in the world, but right now he may not get that chance. Josh Pate from the Late Kick had this to say, quote, "Tyler Buckner led the only 2 touchdown drives, so this battle is a classic did you just watch the spring game, or did you check out the spring game and read your practice reports and listen to your whispers and intel on the program? For instance, Tyler Buckner is not the leader in the clubhouse for this job. The best intel out of Notre Dame that we've had, and it's been consistent, is that this is Jack Coan's job. They're not going to announce that, and it certainly hasn't been announced. So yeah, basically, Buckner showed some flash in the spring game, but just because he showed out on the biggest stage of the spring does not mean that he's going to be the starting guy. While he obviously has a ton of talent, he still needs to have a better grasp of the offense. His decision making is not quite there yet, and he didn't even play in the last year because California high school football did not allow a season to happen. So far, he's done well for a freshman, but look out for Buckner in the future, or if the starting guy goes down in 2021. The third guy on this list is Drew Pine. His father is the former CEO of NASCAR, and both of his grandparents played professional football, so obviously, success was in his family's blood. His cousin is a guy by the name of Kevin Pine, who was actually going to Boston College for football. He was somewhat of a prodigy, as he came in and beat out the senior as a freshman. Going back a little bit, he was actually offered a scholarship by Florida State in 8th grade, and the sky was the limit for Pine. He was from New Canaan, Connecticut, and would end up choosing Notre Dame over the likes of Alabama, Penn State, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Florida State. Pine said that Notre Dame was his dream school, and that former Irish legend Brady Quinn was a hero of his growing up. Pine actually committed 2 years early, so his recruiting stock probably was hurt by that a little bit, and he had plenty of time to familiarize himself with the school. He is often overlooked because he lacks elite size, is not a dynamic runner, and does not have a cannon for an arm. So you may be asking, what on earth will he even contribute to Notre Dame? Well, he's a wicked smart quarterback with a quick release and top-notch accuracy. He basically does everything else right, and despite him not being the most athletic or tall guy on the planet, he gets the job done. He gets the playmakers around him the ball, and is just always wanting to win. Tommy Rees said, quote, "Drew, from the moment he stepped in here last year until now, has just been an absolute burst of energy for the group. He sets the tone in terms of the way he is vocal, brings energy, and not just to the quarterback group, but to the rest of the offense. The joy to play this game is evident every time you watch him play." According to 24/7 Sports, Pine was a 4-star recruit, number 8 pro-style quarterback, and the 225th best player in the class of 2020. According to a lot of reports I read back in April, it was going to be a 2-man race between Jack Coan and Drew Pine, but some people said it was just for show, so it confuses the rest of the college football world, but I would not doubt that Pine has a legitimate chance. While he may not have all the intangibles and be the second coming of Trevor Lawrence by any means, he's obviously a guy who's smart, works hard, wants to be there, and does everything else it takes to win, and that kind of reminds me of what Ian Book was. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but if Pine continues to do that, shows out in the spring and fall camp, and continues to bring that same energy, he may be the starter at some point in 2021. The final guy we need to talk about is the forgotten man, Brendan Clark. He passed for 7,000 yards, 85 touchdowns, and ran the ball for over 2,000 yards and 34 touchdowns during his high school football career, and was one of those late risers. He originally committed to Wake Forest, but he got a ton of better offers after that. He later would commit to Notre Dame over the likes of Clemson, North Carolina, and Tennessee. His quarterback's coach believes the reason why he wasn't more highly recruited is because he did not go to a ton of camp. He's from Midlothian, Virginia, and he became the number 21 pro-style quarterback and the 521st best player in the country. By all sources, he's more of a project player and someone who might be able to compete for a job as a senior after the guys ahead of him have moved on. To be honest, Clark likely will not see the field, as he has dealt with injury over the past few years at Notre Dame, and he's just not at the same level as the other 3 guys. I could see him sticking around for 1 more year and then transferring somewhere else closer to home. He could shock all of us, but as of right now, I really think he's the odd man out. So overall, the quarterback room is pretty intriguing for Notre Dame, and while they have a polarizing freshman, a hard-working redshirt freshman, and a veteran grad transfer with experience, I think all 3 of those guys have a legitimate shot to win the job right now, but it will come down to Pine and Coan, and I do believe Coan will get the starting nod for their Week 1 game against Florida State. By the end of the year, we could see Pine or Buckner starting, but I think it's Coan's job to lose in 2021, and things will really get exciting going into 2022. What do you guys think, though? If you're a Notre Dame football fan, let me know who you think wins the job, what you think of each quarterback, and how you guys will do in 2021. If you're a fan of another school, let me know if I should do your school for their quarterback battle. Give me another topic I can do next. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos in this series, including my video about Texas's quarterback room. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.